Since the first text-based adventure games scrawled across our screens in the late 1970s, to the golden age of 90s point-and-click masterpieces and so forth, adventure games have been here since the very start, transporting you to other worlds and in doing so allowing you to spectate enthralling and sometimes dangerous adventures from afar and all from the comfort of your home. And there are thousands of these games out there waiting to be played, so we've compiled a list of classic adventure games that have shaped the genre as we know it, and that have been ever influential in the landscape of modern gaming as well. So whether this is your foray into armchair adventuring or you're a rugged veteran of the genre, come set a spell and let's do some exploring. Starting off our list at number 10 is an undead anthology series that breathed new life into the stagnant landscape of more traditional adventure games and introduced a whole new generation of point-and-click storytelling. This is the modern-day classic Telltale's The Walking Dead series. Originally launching all the way back in 2012 and hot off the heels of the hit TV show, Telltale's The Walking Dead became an instant hit overnight and catapulted the somewhat obscure developer known as Telltale into the limelight. The first season of the game was released in 5 different episodic adventures over an 8-month period and followed the story of a man named Lee Everett and a young girl named Clementine as they try to survive a recent outbreak of a virus that's sweeping across the world. The mix of a beautiful comic book art style and a story that sunk its teeth into you from the very beginning made these games almost impossible to ignore, instantly becoming part of the zeitgeist of the gaming world and culture on the internet alike. And to this day, they are still some of the best writing in gaming, if you've managed to have them not spoiled for you over the years. And with recent remastered editions being made available to you, there is no excuse not to try them out. So, what are you waiting for? And remember, keep moving forward. And speaking of moving forward, the next game on our list at number 9 launched the world of action-adventure into a war of espionage and snakes, and ultimately brought forth the creation of a new stealth genre of games. I'm talking about the game that started it all, Metal Gear. Originally releasing in 1987 and being the debut title of legendary designer and developer Hideo Kojima, you play as none other than Solid Snake, whose objective is to infiltrate a base of Outer Heaven while avoiding visual contact and investigate and destroy a new weapon known as Metal Gear. It is the first mainline game in the legendary Metal Gear series, the 5th chronologically, and one that will go down in history for breaking the mold of the ever so popular shoot-'em-up action-adventure games of the era. Seriously, for being almost 40 years old, the game holds up incredibly well to this day, unlike my back, and is incredibly fun to play on a handheld, if you have one of those lying around. So maybe you're a fan of the later games in the series and have yet to play this game, or maybe you're a newcomer altogether. Either way, if you haven't tried it yet, definitely give this one a shot. You won't be disappointed. Moving along to number 8 and back in time to the year 1992, we have a revolutionary title that pioneered the beloved fixed camera angle in games and brought about a new genre in gaming called survival horror. This is the acclaimed action-adventure horror game, Alone in the Dark. Set in the year 1924 and taking place in a haunted Gothic mansion in Louisiana, you take on the role as either a private investigator named Edward or the niece of the former owner of the estate named Emily, as you explore and try to find a mysterious piano that is said to be inside of the house. Heavily inspired by the Cthulhu mythos and horror directors such as George A. Romero, this game is a true love letter to horror and the classic tropes that come along with it. It is one of the most iconic games of this era and even spawned 7 more games in the series, including a full remake of the original that came out back in 2024. So if you're interested even a little bit in horror gaming history and want a fun game to play for a bit, definitely check this one out. It's a product of its time, but one that only benefits more from it. At the 7th mark on our list is a 2004 reboot of a classic game series about an unnamed prince that directly influenced a ton of modern gaming as we know it. This is Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. After the original game was released in 1989 and had a few sequels that followed it throughout the 90s, Ubisoft acquired the license for the universe in 2001 and started early concept for a reboot. The game follows an unnamed prince who, after the sacking of a city, comes into possession of an artifact known as the Dagger of Time, which allows him to manipulate time. Shocking. But then the prince is tricked into releasing the Sands of Time from an hourglass that was captured during the sack as well, thus turning the people of Azad into savage monsters, who he must return back to normal using his newfound abilities. This game is great and has been ever influential in the landscape of modern gaming, from storytelling and art to the incredible parkour abilities that directly inspired series like Assassin's Creed and Uncharted. It's honestly kind of hard to say where gaming would be today without this reboot of a classic adventure game, which is now a classic all on its own. What do you get when your wife goes missing in a small town, the police think you did it, and for some reason you still can't get over your writer's block? I'd say you get a damn fine cup of cult classic video game, and the next entry on our list, Alan Wake. Set in the small town of Bright Falls, Washington, and heavily inspired by the works of David Lynch and Stephen King, this game puts you in the shoes of the titular character Alan Wake as he searches for his missing wife in a town full of strange shadow monsters and even stranger town folk. Now, Alan Wake isn't your traditional adventure game, but instead its focus being more on survival horror. But its overall dedication to its story and the journey it takes you on is one that is hard to overlook. The game plays out in just 6 episodes while introducing you to the town of Bright Falls and its inhabitants, and all the strange things that go bump in the night. It is a love letter to the weird and pop culture, and is the start to the now famous Remedy universe, which includes the gorgeously crafted Control series as well. Alan Wake is special, a throwback to an era in games that is overlooked a ton, and a game that still holds up incredibly well. And honestly, what makes a better adventure game than a well-crafted story? If you're a fan of Twin Peaks or anything else that's strange, check this one out. If you're enjoying this list so far, be sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Now, let's move on. The next game at number 5 is actually the newest title on our list today, and comes from the writers of another game mentioned here earlier. This is Campo Santo's one and only game, Firewatch. After writing the first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead series, Jake Rodkin and Sean Vanaman were looking for something new, and decided to branch out and make a studio all their own. And with the help of acclaimed artist Ollie Moss and a few other veterans of the industry, they formed a studio now known as Campo Santo, and thus Firewatch was born. Originally launching in February of 2016 to universal praise, you follow the story of a man named Henry in 1989, who is trying to escape his life by taking a summer job in a fire lookout tower, and meets another lookout named Delilah through his radio. But when things start to mysteriously happen in the woods around him, Henry quickly realizes maybe everything isn't what it seems. Heart-wrenching, mysterious, and one of the most beautiful games ever made, Firewatch is a masterpiece in adventure and storytelling, and a game that is hard to ignore and even harder to put down. I spent countless hours in Firewatch and could write a book on this game, but I'll leave it at that. Just go play it. It's perfect for summertime, and you won't be disappointed. Next on our list at number 4 is a game that still takes up space in my head almost 30 years later. This is the 1997 point-and-click adventure game, Blade Runner. A pseudo-movie tie-in game of sorts, but done so in a way that makes it all its own. With an original story that runs parallel with the 1982 film's plot, even occasionally intersecting with it, and a new cast of characters that all fit perfectly into this dystopian world. This game really pushed the genre of adventure games forward by being one of the first of them to use both 3D character renders and a game world that progressed in real time rather than waiting on your actions, turning time into a mechanic rather than just being a thing that passes by, and in doing so adding an uneasy pressure to the world and making it all feel that much more real. I personally love this game, and the visuals hold up incredibly well to this day, and that just goes to show how ahead of its time it really was. It's a product of its time for sure, but in this case, for this universe, it only adds to the retro-futurism charm. They really don't make them like they used to, and I happily recommend checking this one out, even if it's just for the incredible soundtrack alone. The next title on our list is one you've definitely seen before, or maybe even completed a time or two. This is the surrealist adventure game that will become your world, Myst. Set on a mysterious island and being one of the reasons for mainstream adoption of the CD drive in home computing, it's hard to talk about adventure games without at least mentioning this a little bit. I've said it before, and I genuinely still wonder where gaming would be if Myst hadn't been made. Shaking up the genre of adventure games with its approach of puzzle solving, lack of violence, and unrestricted time limits, it dropped you into a virtual world and left you to your own devices to just discover and connect the dots. Many a game have come out after Myst and tried to copy what they did here, but none have really done what they did. It's cliche to say, but it was ahead of its time and so well made that the studio who made it is even still making that sort of games to this day. And that's not an easy thing to accomplish. So if you've never played this game, or maybe it's somehow just your first time hearing about the legend that is Myst, I can't recommend it enough, and if you don't want to play the original, that's fine. It's a game that's been remade countless times, so pick a version, open your mind, and experience one of the greatest puzzle games to ever come out. No CD drive required. Now, at the penultimate spot on our list, we have a game that was a commercial failure and is often credited with causing the decline in the adventure game genre. This is the 8th underworld wonder, Grim Fandango. Originally releasing back in 1998 and developed by the infamous LucasArts, this cult classic adventure game is set in the land of the dead and follows a travel agent named Manny as he attempts to help others make it to the land of eternal rest. Now, as I said, this game flopped hard on launch and even caused LucasArts to stop making adventure games altogether, But that doesn't mean it's bad. It's often listed as one of the greatest games ever made, and the art style for this game is absolutely stunning. Mixing film noir and elements of Aztec afterlife with a stylized retro-futuristic 1950s setting, it's a style that's unmatched to this day. Plus throw in the legendary writing of LucasArts games and it's just incredible. It was definitely a favorite of mine growing up, and if you're a fan of classic adventure games and you haven't tried this one out yet, what are you even doing? Get to it. And rounding out this list at number 1 is maybe the most influential game here in terms of writing an impact on future generation of game developers, and that is the 1990 swashbuckling LucasArts masterpiece, The Secret of Monkey Island. Because what's more adventurous than being a pirate? Kind of. If you are somehow unfamiliar, in this game you assume the role of Guybrush Threepwood, a young man whose dream is to become, you guessed it, a pirate. And in doing so, he finds himself on Melee Island in hopes of his dreams coming true. And shortly after arriving, the pirate leaders send him to complete 3 trials to show he is worthy. Win a duel, steal an idol, and find buried treasure, and while doing so, hilarity and adventure ensues. As someone who loved Treasure Island and also wanted to be a pirate as a kid, The Secret of Monkey Island had its meat hooks in me from the very start. From its incredible writing and witty humor, to the colorful art and insultingly fun combat, the game has gone on to spawn many a sequel and influence countless wannabe pirates and dairy farmers around the world. And is one of those games that is hard to put down, but one you'll remember for a very, very long time to come. So that's our list. What do you think, and what games would you add to it? Let us know down below, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.